Okay, let's dive headfirst into the vibrant, well, just the delicious world of Brazilian holidays.
Oh, yeah.
If you've ever been lucky enough to experience one, you know it's an explosion of culture, family, pure energy, and, oh my goodness, the food.
The food, it's incredible and such diversity, right?
Absolutely. This isn't one size fits all. Brazil is vast, and the flavors, while they shift dramatically from the coast to inland, holiday to holiday, it's quite something.
It really is.
And when you have that much flavor happening, a fascinating question pops up, doesn't it?
How do you choose the wine?
Exactly. How do you pick a wine that doesn't just, sit there, but actually steps up, complements, and truly elevates all that richness during these special times?
That's the key, isn't it? Elevation.
Well, that's exactly the mission for this deep dive. We've got a fantastic guide helping us navigate basically a look into harmonizing wines, specifically with Brazilian holiday dishes.
A great resource.
Think of it as unlocking the secrets to making those festive meals even more memorable.
Yeah, absolutely. So our goal today, it's really about pulling out the key insights from this material. We want to give you a deeper understanding of the unique palette of Brazilian food.
And maybe arm you with some specific pairing ideas.
Exactly. Arm you with specifics. But, it's not about rigid rules. It's more about creating these delightful experiences right there at your table.
Love that. Okay, so let's start with the foundations. What does this guide say are the basic concepts for any food and wine pairing?
Right. Okay. It basically boils down to three main ideas. First, balance.
Balance. Yep.
It's about making sure neither the food nor the wine just completely overpowers the other. They should ideally walk hand in hand.
Right, they need to work together, like a partnership.
Exactly. Then second, you have contrast.
Contrast. Interesting.
Sometimes, yeah, the magic happens when opposing characteristics meet. Think of the acidity in a wine slicing through the richness or fat of a dish.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Like cutting the heaviness.
Precisely. That opposition creates harmony and it, keeps your palate refreshed.
Makes sense. And the third one.
And third is similarity. This is where you match characteristics.
So like sweet with sweet.
Exactly. Pairing a sweet wine with a sweet dessert, for instance, it reinforces and enhances those flavors, creating a seamless, beautiful combination.
Okay. Balance, contrast, similarity. Got it. Now, let's get specific. How does this apply to the Brazilian table? Because that's where things get particularly rich and interesting, right?
Absolutely. This material highlights what it calls the pillars of flavor that really define the Brazilian palate.
Pillars of flavor. I like that. What are they?
Well, one huge one is the importance of sweetness. You find it everywhere, from, vibrant tropical fruits to rich syrups and those amazing desserts.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So to handle that sweetness, you need wines that either bring their own freshness, often through acidity, or maybe have a balanced sweetness themselves.
Okay, so what kind of wines are we talking about?
That's why you see suggestions like Moscatel, which is, sweet and bubbly, a bright Bruschetto d'Acqui, maybe a white port, or a Riesling.
Riesling, right.
Yeah.
That could have great acidity to balance sweetness.
Exactly. Especially good with fresh fruit.
Okay, so sweetness is one pillar. What else?
Well, that acidity you just mentioned, that's another critical pillar.
Ah, okay.
Whether it comes from lemon, vinegar, tomatoes, it provides this vibrant tang you find in dishes like moqueca or vatapau.
Right, that bright, zesty quality.
Yes. And this liveliness in the food absolutely calls for a wine with high acidity. The wine needs to stand up to that zing and, cleanse your palate.
So think crisp wines.
Think crisp Sauvignon Blanc, maybe a zesty Pinot Grigio, or a refreshing Espumante Brut, those bubbles. And acidity just work wonders.
Okay, acidity. Makes sense. What's next?
And saltiness is huge. Think about cheeses, cured meats, those popular street foods like pastel or acarajé.
Oh, definitely. Lots of savory, salty flavors.
Right. And salty dishes need wines that bring acidity and freshness to cut through that savory intensity.
So what does the source suggest for salty foods?
It points towards wines like a versatile Chardonnay, maybe a dry rosé, or yes, more Espumante.
Espumante again. Seems like a go-to.
Those bubbles and acidity are repeat performers for a reason. They're just so versatile.
Okay. Sweetness, acidity, saltiness. What about heat?
Spicy heat. Good one. Those peppers or ginger that warm things up. You want wines that soothe the sensation rather than, amplifying it.
Right, you don't want to add fire to the fire.
Exactly. Wines with lower alcohol are key here, along with perhaps a touch of residual sweetness or high aromaticity to kind of distract from the heat.
Interesting. Like what kind of wines?
This is where a floral Gewürztraminer, an aromatic Tiradentes, or maybe a slightly sweet Riesling Cabernet come into play.
Mm.
Their profiles offer a counterpoint or like a gentle embrace to the spice.
Okay, Gewürztraminer, Tiradentes, Riesling Cabinet for spice. What about bitterness? Sometimes you get that in greens or certain sauces.
Yes, tackling bitterness, which you might find in, say, certain vegetables or maybe sauces like molo pardo, requires a different strategy.
Okay.
You want wines that are fruity and have softer tannins. Think Pinot Noir, Gamay, or perhaps a young Merlot.
So avoid the big tannic reds.
Definitely. You specifically want to steer clear of wines with high tannins, as they will absolutely clash and just make the bitterness even more pronounced. Really unpleasant.
Good tip. Okay, one more major characteristic.
And finally, a characteristic that shows up, well, quite frequently across Brazilian cooking is fat.
Right. Grilled meats, creamy dishes, fried food.
Exactly. Or the generous use of oils like the distinctive azeite de donde to effectively cut through that richness and prepare your palate for the next bite. You need wines with either high acidity or pronounced tannins.
Ah, so this is where the big reds come back in.
This is why robust reds like Cabernet Sauvignon, Malbec, or Syrah are classic choices for fattier meat dishes. Their structure and tannins provide that needed counterpoint they really slice through.
Okay, that covers the main pillars. Anything else fundamental?
Well, our guide also reminds us that the world of wine offers just this huge spectrum, right? You've got reds, light, medium, full, tannic; whites, light and crisp; full and sometimes oaky, aromatic, mineral; rosés from dry to fruity; sparkling covering brut, demi-sec, and so on; plus dessert and fortified wines.
It's a massive toolbox.
Exactly. This huge range is precisely what makes pairing with diverse Brazilian food so exciting. You have so many options available to find that perfect match for each unique dish.
Okay, this is fascinating. But here's where it gets, I think, really interesting. The source talks about rules and flexibility.
Yes, and this is crucial. While these principles we've discussed are fantastic guides, the sheer complexity and the incredible regional variation across Brazilian cuisine actually, well, they encourage flexibility.
So it's okay to break the rules sometimes.
Absolutely. They invite you to experiment. It's less about sticking to rigid dogma and more about understanding the key components of the dish in front of you and finding a wine that truly sings to your palate. That's the ultimate goal.
I love that. Okay, let's take that idea of flexibility and dive into specific national holidays. Pull out some of those fantastic pairing ideas from the source material. Where should we start?
Okay, let's start with Páscoa, Easter. A very common star of the table is bacalhau, salt cod.
Ah, yes, bacalhau. So many ways to prepare it.
Exactly. And the key here is understanding the preparation. If the bacalhau is, say, saltier or cooked gratinade with creams and cheese,
Richer preparations.
right, you need a white wine with good structure and acidity to handle that saltiness and richness. Think maybe a Don White from Portugal, known for its minerality, perhaps an Alvarinho, a Chardonnay.
Oaked or unoaked Chardonnay.
Either could work. Oaked for more richness, unoaked for more freshness, or even a Chenin Blanc. These have the body and acidity needed.
Okay. And if the bacalhau is lighter, like boiled,
If it's prepared in a lighter style, yeah, boiled or with fewer heavy ingredients, then a lighter, crisper white like a Sauvignon Blanc or a Pinot Grigio is probably a better match.
makes sense. What about other Easter dishes, like moqueca?
Ah, moqueca baiana. That dish is all about layers of flavor and that rich, distinctive azeite de donde.
That donde oil is powerful stuff.
It is. Pairing with this requires a wine that can really stand up to that intensity. The source suggests Espumante Brut.
Bubbles again.
Yep. The bubbles and acidity cut beautifully through the richness of the donde oil, or, alternatively, highly aromatic whites like a Gewürztraminer or Torrentes.
Why aromatic whites?
Their strong profiles can truly complement the fragrant, complex flavors of moqueca. They don't get lost.
Okay, that makes sense. And of course, Easter means chocolate.
Right. And for that quintessential Easter treat, chocolate, the pairing kind of depends on the bitterness.
How so?
Less bitter chocolates, like milk chocolate, work wonderfully with a light, slightly sweet Moscato d'Asti or maybe a fruity ruby port.
And for dark chocolate?
If you're dealing with more bitter, higher cacao chocolate, something like a nutty tawny port or maybe a fortified wine like Banyuls, which often has red fruit and chocolate notes itself, finds a lovely harmony.
Interesting. Okay, moving on through the year. What about Tiradentes? April 21st. Often means Churrasco, right?
Often does, especially if it falls near a weekend. For the classic red meat churrasco, you really need wines that can stand up to the intensity of the grilled meat and, crucially, the fat.
So back to those big reds we mentioned.
Robust, full-bodied reds are absolutely essential here. Think Malbec, Cabernet Sauvignon, Syrah, or Tannat. Their tannins bind to the proteins and fat, cleansing the palate, basically making the meat taste even better.
Any specific regional call-outs?
Yeah, the source even highlights some, like a structured Maipo Cab Sauv from Chile, or maybe a rich Lujan de Cuyo Malbec from Argentina, as really iconic matches for Churrasco.
Perfect. And what about the pan de queijo that always comes alongside?
Ah, pan de queijo. For that beloved companion, you want something refreshing to balance the warm, dense cheesiness.
Espumante.
Ah, yes. An Espumante Brut works perfectly. Or maybe just a crisp white like Sauvignon Blanc, something to cut the richness.
Got it. Okay, next up, Dia do Trabalho, May 1st. Often a day for home cooking.
Yeah, often more relaxed home-style meals. If pasta with red sauce is on the menu, maybe a lasagna or spaghetti bolognese.
Classic comfort food.
Exactly. You need versatile, medium-bodied reds that have enough acidity and gentle tannins to handle the tomato base.
Licorice.
Sangiovese, like you find in Chianti, is great. Merlot works well too, or even Pinot Noir. They're flexible.
And if it's roasted chicken instead?
Roasted chicken is wonderfully versatile, so you have options. A lightly oafed Chardonnay or maybe a Viognier can match the richness of the skin,
Okay.
while lighter reds like Pinot Noir or Gamay pair well with the meat itself without overpowering it. So, yeah, lots of choices there.
Good to have options. Then June hits, and it's time for Festas Juninas.
Ah, yes. Incredibly lively. And the food is so unique. Sweet corn dishes are really the stars here. Pamonha, curau, bolo de milho.
All that sweet corn goodness.
Right. These sweet, often creamy treats practically beg for a sweet wine. The source suggests sweet, sparkling wines like Moscatel.
Like Moscato d'Asti we mentioned.
Exactly. Or elegant, still sweet wines such as a Late Harvest Riesling. Its acidity keeps the sweetness from being, cloying or heavy.
Nice balance.
Yeah.
What about canjica? That's another corn classic, but richer.
Yeah, canjica, that rich, creamy, sweet corn pudding, sometimes almost like a dessert porridge.
Yeah.
For that, you need something equally rich, maybe even with some oxidative notes to complement its depth.
Such as?
Rich, opulent wines like a tawny port or perhaps a Sauternes are fantastic pairings. They match the intensity.
In Pinhão, those pine nuts that are popular, especially in the South.
Right, Pinhão. They have a unique sort of meaty texture and subtle flavor. A light, fruity red like Gamay or maybe a structured rosé can match that nicely.
Interesting. Okay, let's fast forward to the end of the year. The Fim de Anano celebrations. Big ones.
A true marathon of food, as the source calls it, starting with Natal, Christmas. It often features a diverse sale, just a huge mix of flavors, textures, dishes, all on one table.
Yeah, the Christmas table can be a challenge for pairing.
It can. For this kind of spread, Espumante Brut, whether it's a French cremant or a high-quality Brazilian spoice. Traditional method sparkling wine are incredibly versatile. Their freshness and bubbles can carry you through many different courses, a real lifesaver.
Good strategy. What about the main course, often turkey or Chester?
For the traditional festive aves like Peru, turkey, or Chester, you can go a couple of ways. Maybe an oaked Chardonnay or Viognier to handle richer preparations, or lighter to medium reds like Pinot Noir, Merlot, or Grenache. They're versatile with roasted poultry.
What if there's a sweet glaze, like on a ham or tenderloin?
Ah, good question. If you're serving tender with a sweet glaze, a structured rosé can work nicely, offering fruit without being sweet itself. Or if the glaze is quite prominent, maybe even a slightly off-dry Zinfandel could work.
Okay. And desserts. Christmas often means dried fruit, panettone.
Yes, desserts often feature dried fruit, and these find beautiful companions in wines like Sauternes, Tokaji, that wonderful Hungarian sweet wine, or an aged tawny port.
Why tawny port?
Its oxidative, nutty notes really complement the dried fruit flavors beautifully. And for rabanadas, the Brazilian take on French toast.
Oh, rabanada is
A
delicious.
tawny port again, or a Moscatel de Setúbal from Portugal are classic, comforting matches. Just perfect.
Wonderful. Okay, then comes Réveillon, New Year's Eve. Starts with a toast.
Of course, it begins with the essential brind, the toast. Nothing says celebration quite like bubbles.
Champagne.
Champagne Brut is classic, or a high-quality Brazilian traditional method Espumante. They are the absolute go-to choices for ringing in the new year with style.
Perfect. What about the food? Lentils are traditional for luck, right?
Yes, the lentilla dish. It's often earthy and savory. For that, a light red like Pinot Noir or Gamay, or maybe a medium white like an unoaked Chardonnay provides a good balance without overpowering the subtle flavors.
And lots of seafood, especially near the coast.
Fish and seafood are very common on Réveillon tables, definitely. These usually call for light, crisp, often citrusy whites like Sauvignon Blanc or maybe a Vinho Verde from Portugal or a dry rosé.
Any specific examples?
Our source gives a couple, pairing a crisp Sauvignon Blanc with salmon grillado, grilled salmon, with citrus, for instance, or a clean Chablis or a Cremant with fresh ostras frescas, oysters. Classic pairings.
Mouth-watering. In salads. Always salads.
Always. And for the ever-present salads, especially those with vinaigrettes, you need that crisp white again with good acidity. Maybe something with herbal notes like a Sauvignon Blanc or, once again, an Espumante Brut. Versatility wins again.
It really seems like having good sparkling wine on hand is key for Brazilian holidays.
It absolutely helps.
Okay, thinking about Brazil's sheer size, we have to touch on regional differences, right? The guide mentions some.
It does. It's impossible not to. It gives us a glimpse into how local holidays bring unique flavors and pairing opportunities. It's just a taste, really.
Give us a few examples. Say, the Nordeste, Northeast.
Okay, up in the Nordeste, for dishes like baião de dois, that's rice and beans with dried meat and cheese, or carne de sol, sun-dried meat, a structured rosé, or a light red like Gamay or Pinot Noir can stand up to the richness without clashing with all the different components.
What about something really regional, like buchada de bode?
Ah, yes. If you're adventurous and trying buchada de bode, goat stomach stew, which is very intense, a medium red like Merlot is suggested to handle that richness.
Okay, let's go south. Sul, obviously Churrasco.
Down in the Sul, the Galucho Churrasco is iconic, of course. This just re-emphasizes the need for those powerful reds, Tannat, Cabernet Sauvignon, Malbec. They are truly made for this style of rich grilled meat.
Any other southern dishes?
Sure. For carretera, which is often dried meat and rice, maybe a medium red like Cabernet Franc or Pinot Noir works well. And for pazoca de pinhão, that sweet dish with pine nuts we mentioned for Festas Juninas, the sweetness again calls for Moscatel or late harvest wines.
Got it. And maybe one more region, north to central west. North central west. Lots of river fish there.
Exactly. The focus on river fish often means pairing with aromatic whites, maybe Riesling, Sauvignon Blanc, Tiradentes, or a light rosé. Their profiles complement the delicate, though sometimes fatty, fish.
What about pato no tucupi, that famous duck dish?
Pato no tucupi, duck in a fermented manioc broth with jambu leaves. It's complex, acidic, umami, slightly numbing from the jambu. It's tricky. A light red Pinot Noir or maybe a medium unoaked Chardonnay can be a good match, trying not to clash.
And other northern specialties.
Briefly, for tacacá, that hot, sour shrimp soup also with jambu, a zesty Sauvignon Blanc or Vinho Verde might cut through its unique profile. And maniçoba, that long-cooked manioc leaf dish that resembles feijoada, it's very rich and earthy, might need a medium red like Merlot or perhaps Carmenere.
Wow, the diversity is just incredible. Okay, this has been fantastic. But let's get practical as we wrap up. Does our guide give some final sort of pro tips for making the most of these pairings for our celebrations?
Yes, absolutely. Some really useful practical advice. One crucial tip is serving temperature.
Ah, easy to overlook, but important.
So important. Getting the temperature right isn't just a fussy detail. It genuinely unlocks the wine's full flavor and aroma. The guide gives ranges.
Like what?
Serve fresh whites and rosés chilled, maybe around 8-12 degrees Celsius. That's roughly 46-54 F. Light reds, slightly cooler than room temp, say 14-16 C, 57-61 F. Full reds at a classic cellar temp, 16-18 C, 61-64 F. And sparkling wines properly cold, a chilly 6-8 C, 43-46 F.
Good benchmarks. What else?
Then there's using proper glasses. Believe it or not, the shape really does affect the experience.
How so?
Well, narrower glasses help concentrate the aromas and bubbles for whites and sparkling wines, while larger, wider bowls give reds room to breathe and release their complex scents. It makes a difference.
Okay, makes sense. Temperature, glasses.
Yeah.
What about storage?
Good storage is also vital, especially if you buy wine ahead of the celebration. You want to protect your wines. Keep bottles on their side, ideally in a cool, constant temperature, aiming for 12-18 C, 54-64 F if possible. Keep them away from light vibration and strong odors. It just ensures they'll be in peak condition when it's time to pop the cork.
Right. Protect your investment. Any other tips?
Our source also makes a point of highlighting Brazilian wines. There's a wealth of quality wine being produced locally.
Good point. We shouldn't forget the local options.
Definitely not. They specifically encourage seeking out and trying Brazilian espumants, many made in the traditional method that can really rival champagne versatile merlots and refreshing white wines. They can be fantastic pairings for local cuisine, naturally.
That's great advice. And the last tip,
And finally, they circle back to perhaps the most important point: experimentation.
back to breaking the rules.
Well, yeah, the principles are there to guide you, but the ultimate goal is your enjoyment and what tastes good to you. Don't be afraid to try new combinations, explore different regions, different grapes, and find what makes your palate happy at the festive table. That's what it's all about.
Fantastic. What a journey we've taken through this incredible landscape of Brazilian holiday flavors and exploring how different wines can really become, well, companions to those dishes.
It's clear, isn't it? Wine acts as this wonderful link between tradition, taste, and just the pure joy of celebration.
Absolutely. And hopefully this deep dive has given you, our listener, the knowledge and maybe even a little inspiration to pick out some fantastic bottles and make your own Brazilian celebrations even more delicious, insightful, and memorable.
Yeah, definitely. And as the source beautifully puts it, this kind of food and wine harmonization is a journey without end, full of discoveries and inexhaustible pleasures.
I love that quote.
Me too. So keep exploring, keep tasting, and keep finding those perfect pairings at your table. Cheers.